as well. So basically this particular project is a interesting project because let me just, well, first of all, you could look at another video I did on this earlier, but we'll do it again, is that this is a CloudWatch timer that will run at a periodic interval. And then what'll happen is it'll read inside of the DynamoDB database, which is a key value database. And then this thing will then put messages into an SQS system. And SQS is a place where you can put messages where you can essentially never overwhelm it, because it can take an infinite amount of messages basically. And then I have a Lambda that's triggered so that there's a one-to-one where every single time I get a message in SQS, it fires off a Lambda. So it basically executes my Python code. You could even, I think, tell it to get batch messages like 10 at a time, but conceptually it's one-to-one. And then from here, you could do anything you want. You could do comprehend, you could do natural language processing yourself, or whatever service you want to call. And then I put this into a bucket. But this general architecture is a really basic serverless architecture that's fairly straightforward to set up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through here and set this up. So I'm going to go to console here and just start spinning this thing up step by step. So the first thing that I would do is I would go to Cloud9 and kind of get this thing working. And I think I had set one up earlier. I'm just going to use this project because it's probably already got my SSH keys. Okay, so while that's spinning up, what I'm going to do here is look at this notebook. So that's the architecture, but let me open up another. And if we look at this notebook, the main thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a Lambda function, well, in the console. So I'll go back to the console and go through and create a new Lambda function. And we'll call this one producer 919 or something like that. And then I'll change the runtime to Python. Although I think in this case I want to do Python 3.6 because that's what Lambda supports. And then this is the part that's tricky, is that the Lambda itself, if it needs to do anything like talk to another service, it has to have also a role, just like Elastic Beanstalk or EC2 or Code Build. And so I've already had one earlier, so I'm going to use an existing role. And I'm going to select this one right here. I have an admin role that I use for prototyping. If you want it to be very secure, you would only give it the permissions that it needs to execute what it is you're building. But for prototyping, I like to give it an admin role. Okay, so I've got this sample project here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this code here, which I think I have some producer code here. And I'm basically going to need to populate SQS. And so I'll just copy this in and throw this inside so we can take a look at it. So copy this and then put this inside, and let's just walk through what it is that this actually does. So I import Boto3. I use JSON just to do JSON stuff. And then this DynamoDB library allows me to talk to a key value database, which I'm going to create in a second. And it's going to talk to a table called FANG for Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google. And then I'm going to have a queue called a producer, and I'm also going to make an instance. So because Boto3 is an easy way to talk to AWS, I can just in a line of code make an instance of either one. And then I set up some logging. And this is always a good idea for serverless, is to create some logging so that you know what's going on. And then from here, we will scan a table. And all this does is it goes back to this Dynamo table right here, and we will grab the information inside of it and get everything out of it. So this is like a lazy way to retrieve the data, which is like, just give me everything that's in this table. And then once I've got that, the other thing I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to send messages to a queue that will hold all of the things I find out of the database. And that's what this line of code does, is just sends it to a queue. And then the next thing I'll do is I will say, for everything that's in the DynamoDB table, put it into one by one into the queue. Now I could have done additional things, right? So because I'm pulling it from Dynamo, I could add additional information or delete certain things. I mean, I can do anything I want, but for ease of use in explaining this, I'm just going to take something from the table and put it into the queue. And then the thing that does all the work is that this is the entry point where it doesn't actually accept an event, that it does nothing. All it does is it pulls data from the table and puts it into the queue. That's it. So that's really all I need. The only thing though I'm going to need to verify is, do I have a table in DynamoDB and do I have a queue in SQS? So let's go check that out. Let's go first to DynamoDB and take a look at this. And from here, we can look at the tables that exist. And there is actually a table called Fang already. But let me just show you how to create a table. It's almost like a Google Sheet. There's not a lot to it. You don't need to be overwhelmed by it. You can just say like demo, right? And then for here, this just has to be a globally unique ID, so that it's like a Python dictionary. So I could just say GUID, globally unique ID, and then say create. So again, it's almost as simple as creating a spreadsheet. Once you do that, you can add things by hand. It takes, let's say, 20 seconds to create it, but oh, actually it's already done. So now I can go through here and I can say create item, and I can just say, for example, apple, append. I could say, banana, and I could say like more. I can put whatever I want, inside of this thing. I could have nested ones, or I could say, it's literally just a dictionary. Basically, it's a dictionary data structure, and I also can delete it easily as well by just going to demo and saying delete table. And so I'll just type the word delete. I'll be lazy and not type it. I'll just paste it. Enter the word delete. Okay, I have to enter it. Okay, so now this Fang table, because it's got just a name inside of here, these are just names of companies: Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Netflix. I could put whatever I want. I could put Oracle or whatever company I want to put inside of here, and that's it. So I've got DynamoDB table set up, and it's very easy in Bodo to read and write to DynamoDB. Again, think of it like a spreadsheet. Now I'm going to go to SQS, and SQS, I need to have a queue called producer, which I don't have one set up. But let's just first show you how to create a queue. It's pretty easy. There's two kinds. There's FIFO and standard. This is probably not what you want when you're using a queue, because it's a first in, first out, and it's really like a specialized queue process. More likely what you want is something where you can just throw a fire hose of stuff about it, and this is more sloppy, I guess, and this is more precise, where if you really needed to have first in, first out delivery, like you're doing payroll transactions or credit card transactions or something, okay, maybe you would use this. But what's great about this is you literally can't blow up the queue. There's no way you can send more information than it can accept. Like it's not possible. It takes just a tremendous, like hundreds of thousands or millions per second, or something just absolutely ridiculous that you'll more than likely never run into. And so inside of here, I would just say producer like this as the queue. And then you could just leave all this stuff default and say create, and that's it. And once you have the queue created to use it, you just say send and receive messages, and you can just say like hello and just send a message. And then it's pretty straightforward, is that in this queue here, if I want to look inside, I can say pull for messages, and look, you can see there's a message, and then what is in the message body? Hello, right? So it's a fairly straightforward process. But the main idea is that it's almost like an email inbox, like you're just collecting a bunch of information. So I'm going to delete this here, and we can say stop polling because there's nothing inside the queue, right? You even can purge the queue as well. So if you wanted to purge, all that means is that just if there was something inside the queue, like you had 1,000 messages, you can also just delete it, which is really only used for development, right? Okay, so we got a queue set up, we have DynamoDB set up, so pretty much we can get this Lambda cooking here, right? Because we know that the Lambda, this is all of the work, right? It's very straightforward to pull all the data from DynamoDB. It's just producer table scan, that's it. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this, and then to run it, I just need to add a trigger. So I can either run it myself, or I can run it manually inside of here, testing it. So let's go ahead and run it this way first. So I'm going to go through here and just say, fire, and then all this will just be empty. We'll just say a fire queue, and this will just send an empty payload because it doesn't accept anything. We'll format this. And then this will actually run, it'll scan that table, or it should. Oh, no module named Python JSON logger. So we did run into one problem, which is irritating, is that I do use a third-party library that it needs that I didn't install. And so we can fix that though by importing this into the Cloud9 environment and fixing it. And I'll show you how I typically do that. And this is a little bit clumsy, and it's irritating that they do this, that there may be a newer way that they do this, but this is the way that I install packages, is if we go back to here, what I can do is just close all this other stuff. I don't need any of this anymore. This is some other project I was working on. But I can go to this AWS's resource tab here, and I can go to whatever we called this thing, which was producer 919, and I just refresh, and it should populate over here in the P's. Where's this thing? Refresh this. More. There we go. So this one, and if I right click on it, I can say import, and I can literally import it into my project, which is pretty nice actually. And so once I've imported it, notice that this is the problem, is this library. So how do we fix this? Well, the way I do this is I will install the package in a certain way so that it's bundled inside, which is, again, I hope they fix this, that there's an easier way to do it, but this is the way I do it. So I would CD into multi-cloud. No, not that part. I would CD into producer, and then inside of here, we would look at this template. There's a couple ways we can solve this. Let's see. So this is the template. I guess they changed this a little bit because it's going to require another package that's one level above it. So let's see if this works. So this doesn't have a virtual environment as well, which is kind of irritating. Let's see if this works. So this is one way that it might work, is that you say requirements.txt, and then inside of requirements, you say Python. you put in the package that it needs, Python JSON logger, which I think that's the name of it. Let's double check. Yeah, I think this is the name. Yeah, Python JSON logger. Okay, so that's the library, and let's see if this works. If I do, if I create a virtual environment, so I'll say Python 3-m virtual environment, and I'll make it above because I don't want to check this virtual environment inside of there. I'll say ~/ producer 919. I will source this. So I'll say I'll source this environment, and this is the tricky part. That's kind of weird, and I'll show you what I do. Is that, and again, there may be an easier way to do this. Is I don't actually install it into the virtual environment. I just use the Python packaging tool from the virtual environment. I install it one directory above, which should be something it can pick up. So let me see if this works. So I do pip install -r requirements, and I say --target. Let's just double check I have this command right. Yeah, target. I do this. I do target above. And does this work? So the reason why is that it needs to look a directory above this to find its library. And so I think it will grab all this inside of here, which again is a little bit weird that it would grab all that in the directory above here. But okay. And now if I go here again, I can actually deploy it, and it should grab that directory above. Say deploy. That was easy. And let's see if that works. So if I refresh this, yeah, well, that was old. Let's see if this works here. So it did give it the new file. And let's see what that does. Did that work? It's still having a problem. Yeah, usually that works if it's in a sub package. And this is the thing that's irritating about the Lambda environment. So what I'm going to do to fix this is I'm going to do it a different way. I'm going to go copy this code that I have in here, and I'm going to just recreate it from Cloud9, which is a little bit easier. So instead of this, I'm going to deactivate this environment, and I'm going to just make one from this wizard. So this wizard here, I can click this button, and what it does is it creates the package structure that makes it easier to package the dependencies with it. And again, this is a little bit clumsy but weird. So we'll just call this producer, and I'll say Cloud9. Cloud9, producer Cloud9. There we go. And if I go through here, I can say Python 3.6. And for trigger, for now, I'll just say none. The role, I will want to use an admin role, and I'll finish it. So this is a little bit trickier initially than I expected it to be, but we can easily fix this. So this is giving us an empty function. I'm going to put that same source code in there. And the only thing I'm going to need to do is do the same thing that I did before, but I'm going to cd up here. I'm going to cd into this producer Cloud9, and notice that the directory structure is a little different because this is where the Lambda lives. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to source this structure they set up for me here, and then I'm going to do the same thing I just did. So I think the problem was there wasn't the upper level directory, and that was what the issue was. So I'm going to say source venv bin activate, and then I'm going to cd into this, and then I'm going to do that fancy thing that I did before. So I'll go producer Cloud9 requirements. We'll put in here Python JSON logger. Okay, so I got that working, and then I'll do that same command. So I'll just say pip install requirement. I'll do that command, but let me just double check where I'm at. Okay, yeah, so I want to do it, but I want to do it one level up because the requirements file is up in the next level up as well. So I'm going to say install the requirements from the directory above me, and then also put the packages in the directory above me. Okay, so if we look in here, it put all that stuff inside of this directory. So we have an outer folder that holds all the packages, and then inside we've got our Lambda. Now I should be able to deploy it. So a little bit confusing, but we found a fix. I right click and I do deploy, and it should take a little bit longer because it's copying a bunch of files there. Now, one thing we can do while it's deploying is that you can actually test this locally, because if I go here and I say run local, remember it doesn't take a payload, it's just an empty payload, but it will call out to the Cloud9 instance, a call to DynamoDB, pull this stuff from the table and put it into the SQS. This will run this. So let's just go ahead and run it here. There we go. Look, so it did all that. It went over there. And how do we know? Let's go back to SQS. And SQS, we should see if I pull it, if I say send and receive messages, and I say pull, there should be like 5 or 10 messages in here. So there we go. There's a bunch of messages, and look and what are the messages? They're the names of these companies, right? So I can even test this locally just from in this environment. So we got the first part set up, and we figured out why you need this certain directory structure, which is pretty irritating, but for now, that's how they want you to do it, unless they've fixed it. So the only other thing I'm going to need, if I go back to this GitHub project again, is we've set up this part of it, which is we set up this, and we set up this, and we set up this. So we set these 3 pieces up. But what we haven't set up is tell it to run, at some interval. Probably 1 minute in a real company is too much, but for demoing, it's good because it'll just keep cranking things so I can see it in action. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to go to this function here, and I'm going to add a trigger. And the trigger is pretty easy. I just go to CloudWatch, and I tell it to, I think it's called events. It's called, let's see, Event Bridge, CloudWatch events. And you can just set a rule. I already have one set up, a 1 minute timer, but you can see it's just this. It would be rate 1 minute, but I would probably say once a day for something like this is better. But just so we can see it working, I'm going to say add, and it's going to now pump the queue full of messages over and over and over again. Okay, so while that's working, we need to build the second piece now. So we got this, 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 and this. We got 4 of them run. Now I need to consume the messages inside this queue, and then do some kind of natural language processing API, and then put the results into S3 bucket. So I need to do step 2. And then for step 2 is pretty easy, actually. I would just go to the example source and find, I think it is going to be this one maybe. Let's look at this. Yeah, this looks like the code, and I'll explain it in a second. So I'm going to just grab this and copy it, and then I'll do one more. I'll create one more inside of this area here. So again, I just go to this plus icon. I can close all these other ones. I don't need them anymore. And then I can say, okay, make another Lambda, and we'll call this one consumer Cloud9. Next, runtime will be Python 3.6. Go through, no trigger. We'll use a role, the existing admin role, and say finish. Okay, now that this is running here, I'm going to just paste it in. And the only thing that we really need to do, first let me just explain what the code does. So the code, we're going to need to install Boto, 3, Wikipedia, pandas, and then that Python JSON logger, right? Those are the pieces of code that we'll need to install. And then this is just utility functions that I'm going to use to talk to the queue. And so what we do is we make a connection to SQSQ. In fact, I think I can even get rid of this. I don't think I use this, which is a bad software engineering practice. I don't know why I left it in there. But this I do need, which is a delete queue message. After you're done grabbing the message from the queue, you should delete it so you don't rerun the job again. And then what this code does is it grabs the names from the Wikipedia URL, and then it puts it into a data frame. And then what we do is we call out to AWS Comprehend Service, do natural language processing, and then apply that to a data frame. And then I write that information to S3 bucket. And then here's an example of a Lambda handler, just like this, and says make pandas data frame with Wikipedia snippets, perform sentiment analysis, and then write it. So basically it's going to call Wikipedia based on the name of the company that appeared in the SQS database, grab the page information, put that into a data frame, perform the sentiment analysis, and then write that out to an S3 bucket called thing sentiment. So that looks pretty good. But the biggest question mark is I'm going to need to do the same thing I did before, which is get those packages installed, which again is a little bit irritating. This is the most irritating part of all this. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to go into consumer Cloud9. And again, we see it gives us a virtual environment, which at least they do that. So I can say source venv bin activate, and then I will cd into consumer cloud. Or actually, first let me put the right requirements in here. So we know that it's going to need Python JSON logger. It's also going to need pandas. It's going to need Boto 3, which I think we already have installed. And then it's also going to need Wikipedia. So it looks like those are the main libraries. So 4 libraries. Okay. And then I can do the same thing. I can just run history, and I can be lazy and just copy this, right? So I can now cd into this, run this command, pip install the requirements file above me, and then put the packages above me as well. Okay. Now this one I can't test locally because it only gets triggered based on messages that appear in SQS. So what I will do is I will just deploy, assuming that this works, and I will go to consumer, right click on it, and then say deploy. And this should take a second. Now how then do I get this thing to trigger on that queue? And by the way, before we do that, let me go back to the queue, and there should be a lot of messages into this queue now, because it's been running for a while. And so there's a bunch of messages in this queue, and messages available 30, right? So we see that there's a bunch of messages that are appearing inside of here, because it's constantly pumping these messages into the queue. So what I'm going to need to do is go to this function here, and not the producer, but I'm going to need to go to the other function, which is the consumer. And I need to add a trigger that tells it that every time there's a message in the queue, which will be the producer queue, to grab a message at a time. In this case, we'll see the maximum number of messages. We'll just do one at a time. Grab it and then put it through all the stuff that we have. So we'll go ahead and say add, and it should be instantaneous. It should instantaneously just start draining the queue, and it should in fact be so quick that there should be nothing left here very, very quickly. And let's see here though, if we say pull for messages, unless there's a problem, messages available, let's see. It should really quickly just drain everything in the queue. Let's double check. Although it does take a second for this to get set up. So yeah, it's still creating, that's why. But as soon as it's done creating, then it should process all of the messages in the queue. There we go. So it's done. So if I go back here, there should be, in theory, let's see what's available. Pull for messages. I don't see anything. So it looks like they already got rid of all of them, which is what I would expect. Yeah, so they're gone. It processed everything in the queue. And then what we would do next is we could look at the logs. So this consumer here, we can go to monitoring, which is always very, very important to know about monitoring. We can look at the logs in CloudWatch, and we can see exactly what this did. And we notice that it is actually processing the events. There we go. That looks good. So it's able to do all this stuff. That looks good. That it was able to process this, writing messages to the bucket. So now we can just check S3. That would be the next thing to check. So I'm going to go to Amazon S3 here, and let's look in that bucket called Thing Sentiment. There we go. And we can see that we can even sort by last modified. There we go, Google Sentiment. And we can actually see that it's putting stuff in there. So what we could do to make things a little bit trickier is I could go back to my Cloud9 environment because I'm lazy, and I could just pull this into here. So I could just kind of get rid of all this stuff, which is irritating, and just do like literally AWS S3 CP-R. This, would it be Feng Sentiment? Feng Sentiments, would it be S3? Does that work? Let's see. Actually, before I do that, let me see. I want to be into the environment directory, which is like, will show all this stuff. And let's see if that will work. Is this the command? Oh, unknown option. So did it do anything? Let's look up the documentation. So AWS S3 CP-help. What is it? Okay, let's see. Example would be CP. That looks good. So, okay, they're giving me all the, oh, here we go. S3 sync. That would be local to remote. CP. I think S3CP. Oh, dash recursive. I think that's all I need to do is add a dash recursive. Okay, so let's try this. Let's see if we can get all those files here. And then say dash recursive. Will that work? Okay, there we go. So we were able to copy those files locally, and then I can even just look at them inside of here, so we can see. I don't know when these were from, but if we go back here, we can look at the latest timestamps, and last modified Google was new, so we can go back here. And we can look at Google. We can just even look at it inside of here. And we can see that it has a CSV format. And then it has the snippet of code, which is what I got from Wikipedia. And it also has the sentiment associated with it. So we have a full end-to-end data pipeline, and we can communicate back and forth with the data in S3. So what did we build? We built this. We built a timer that is constantly going through and triggering this producer Lambda. This producer Lambda reads the data, which is the company names from DynamoDB. When it grabs it, it puts it into SQS. And then this is an event-based workflow where every time a message appears, it immediately calls automatically the consumer Lambda, which goes through and grabs the message from SQS, so parses the message, does whatever we told it to do, in this case do comprehend analysis, and then extracts that and puts it as a file name into S3. So this could be, all these things could be swapped out for different pieces. This obviously is probably too much, probably once a day is fine. And then additionally, this doesn't have to be comprehend. It could be your own natural language processing system or whatever. Or it could be video, or it could be anything you want. And so what I'm going to do now to clean this up, and this is very important to do, is I'm going to go back to everything and just delete it all. So otherwise I'll get charged for these services. So I need to go to Lambda, and I need to find the producer. That's probably, well, first of all, delete the old producer that we didn't get working. We'll delete that. Then I'll delete the producer that has the trigger every minute. So first I'll go here and disable that trigger so we can just delete it. And then I'll also just delete this whole function. Just go here. Actually, I think I can just delete the whole application. Just say consumer and delete it. So we could either delete the whole stack here. That's one way to do it. And then I could also go here to the producer and delete their stack as well, because it has infrastructure as code automation associated with it as well. And then once I've got that working, I also should go back to SQS as well and delete that queue and just kind of clean that up, delete it. We'll just say delete, and delete the producer queue as well, just to be safe. Delete that. And it's always a best practice once you've gone through and created a bunch of stuff to clean everything up. And that's it. That's the final project. So let's maybe stop there.